You probably believe that you have total control over the ideas and decisions you make. But how frequently are they led by other factors? Something going on deep inside your head that you are not even aware of. Here are some common biases, mind traps, and strange traits that are hardwired into every human mind. It is possible to live your entire life unaware of the thinking mistakes and mental shortcuts that affect your everyday thinking. You can't turn them off or delete them from your brain. But being the few people that can notice as they arise in your mind, and knowing situations they are likely to act upon in your decision-making is one of the first steps to becoming a more thoughtful and rational thinker. This work is mainly inspired by the works of Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his amazing book Thinking Fast and Slow. The halo effect. This is a cognitive bias that occurs when people make judgments about someone or something based on a single positive trait or characteristic, such as attractiveness or success in a particular area. For example, if someone is physically attractive, others may assume they are also intelligent or kind, even if they have no evidence to support these assumptions. The halo effect can also work in reverse, where a negative trait can unfairly influence people's perceptions of someone or something. The halo effect can lead to inaccurate judgments and unfair treatment based on superficial factors. To avoid the halo effect, we should focus on factual information rather than relying on superficial traits. Consider multiple sources of information and evaluate each trait separately rather than allowing a single trait to influence your judgment of the overall person or situation. Be aware of your own biases and actively work to overcome them by seeking out diverse perspectives and challenging your assumptions. By being aware of the halo effect and taking these steps, you can make more objective and fair judgments. Confirmation bias. Rachel is a detective investigating a murder case. She believes that the victim's ex-boyfriend is the killer and spends all her time gathering evidence to support this theory. She ignores other pieces of evidence that suggest other suspects could be responsible. And as a result, she fails to solve the case and the real killer remains at large. This is as a result of confirmation bias, a mind trap that causes us to favor information that supports our beliefs and ignore information that challenges them. To realize confirmation bias, Rachel needs to pay attention to the types of evidence she is relying on and actively seek out evidence that contradicts her theory. To avoid confirmation bias, we should try to approach new information with an open mind, and actively seek out evidence that challenges our beliefs. Availability heuristic. This is a mental shortcut our brains use to make decisions or judgments based on how easily we can recall or remember similar past events or information. In other words, we tend to assume that things that come to mind quickly are more likely to occur or be true than things that are harder to recall. You hear a lot about lion attacks in the news. You might overestimate the likelihood of being attacked by a lion, even though the actual probability is very low. To avoid availability heuristic, we should try to gather as much information as possible before making a decision and consider the source of the information. Anchoring effect. Emily is a real estate agent who is selling a property for $500,000. She shows the property to a potential buyer who offers her $400,000. Emily is hesitant to accept the offer, believing that the property is worth more than $400,000. However, the buyer tells her that he has another offer for $300,000 and that $400,000 is his final offer. Emily accepts the offer, thinking that it is better than nothing. This is a result of the anchoring effect, a mind trap that causes us to rely heavily on the first piece of information encountered when making decisions, even if it is irrelevant or misleading. To realize the anchoring effect, Emily needs to pay attention to the initial offer and consider whether it is relevant to the value of the property. To avoid the anchoring effect, we should try to gather as much information as possible before making a decision and consider the context of the information. The spotlight effect. This is a psychological phenomenon that causes us to overestimate how much other people notice and pay attention to our appearance, behavior, and actions. You spill coffee on your shirt, you might feel like everyone around you is staring and judging you, when in reality, they may not have even noticed. This can lead to feelings of self-consciousness, anxiety, and a desire to conform to social norms. Essentially, we feel like there is a spotlight shining on us, making us the center of attention, even when other people may rarely pay as much attention to us as we think. Sunk cost fallacy. Olivia is a business person who has invested millions of dollars into a failing company. Even though the company is hemorrhaging money and has no chance of success, she refuses to pull out of the project, saying, "I've put too much into it to give up now." This is a result of sunk cost fallacy, a mind trap that causes us to stick with endeavors in which we've already invested time, money, or other resources and ignore the potential future costs. To avoid sunk cost fallacy, we should try to make decisions based on the potential future costs and benefits, rather than past investments. Despite the potential losses, Olivia continues to invest in the company, hoping to turn it around. And as a result, she ends up bankrupt and loses everything she had. If only she had realized the mind trap and made decisions based on the current state of the company, she could have avoided this devastating outcome. Hindsight bias. Jake is a weatherman who predicts a severe storm that never occurs. After the storm does not happen, he tells his colleagues, "I knew it all along. I always thought the storm would miss us." This is a result of hindsight bias, a mind trap that causes us to overestimate our ability to predict the future and believe that we could have foreseen an event if we had thought about it more. To avoid hindsight bias, we should try to approach events with a realistic perspective and consider the range of possible outcomes. The framing effect. This is a cognitive bias that occurs when people react differently to information depending on how it's presented or framed. If someone is given the choice between two options, one described as having a 90% success rate and the other as having a 10% failure rate, they may perceive the first option as more attractive, even though the two descriptions convey the same information. This bias can be used in advertising, politics, and other areas to influence people's decisions by manipulating the way information is presented to them. To avoid the framing effect, we need to question the way information is presented to us and try to identify any biases. Consider alternative perspectives and focus on factual information rather than emotional responses. Seek out multiple sources with different perspectives to make more informed decisions. By being aware of the framing effect and taking these steps, you can make more objective and informed decisions. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.